Hi everyone, and welcome back to Product Training with Blue Triangle. Today we're going to talk about our latest new feature set in the Blue Triangle portal, and that is our network health checks. This type of monitoring allows you to keep an eye on your network health and availability via ping and traceroute style testing. So today we'll be getting into how to configure this type of monitoring, how to set up alerts for it, and how to view the data in the dashboards and reports. Alright, so my name is Mark and I'm the support manager here at Blue Triangle, and we do these training sessions each week about various topics related to web performance, analytics, and ultimately how to use Blue Triangle to solve problems. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so for the agenda today, we're going to start out and talk about some use cases for the network health checks. We'll get into a little bit about who this kind of monitoring is really for, and then we'll dive into some more information about really what's going on under the hood of our network health checks synthetic monitors. We'll go into some detail about how it all works and defining some terms and that sort of thing, and then we'll get into the Blue Triangle Live, and we'll walk through how to configure a new network health check monitor. We'll set up alerting for that monitor, and then we'll go and view some data via the dashboard and some reports as well. Alright, so real quick up front, let's just talk briefly about some use cases for network health checks. So the primary kind of persona that we're targeting here, or that are most likely going to be using this type of monitoring, are network or DevOps engineers. So for instance, a network engineer is very likely going to want to be able to configure the MTR or my traceroute between nodes, synthetic nodes, to destinations on the internet. So that could be also private networks to private synthetic agents, or rather private synthetic agents to private networks. So that's one use case. Another one is if you're a DevOps engineer, let's say you're responsible for multiple data centers in multiple geographies, it's going to be important for you to understand the network availability and health to and from each of those data centers, and be able to gather some important network performance metrics. So both of these scenarios are going to be satisfied with our network health checks. All right, so the first thing we'll do is look at the synthetic monitor, a network health check monitor configuration, and we'll kind of run down and compare it against the existing synthetic single page, for example, monitor. So some things that are going to be new or different are firstly the method. This is going to be the protocol used to transmit the data. And then of course you can see the different options down here and what they mean. ICMP and TCP are probably going to be the most common, but we also have UDP as well as SCTP. And then of course the domain or host is going to be the target for the measurement. This is going to be the node or destination that you'd like to measure. Report cycles. So this is the number of measurements, or essentially the number of trace routes used for the final MTR report data. So I'll go ahead and point out right now, it's important to understand our network health checks are running MTR, or my trace route, which is different than a regular trace route in that there can be multiple report cycles or multiple trace routes run, and the results are the statistical analysis from each of those report cycles. So hopefully that's clear. Packet size is, of course, the amount of data transmitted during the measurement. For TCP, you can specify a port number. If you have a private agent location, you can configure the type of service. The maximum number of hops is going to be a limit on the total stops between the synthetic monitor and the destination. And then with the error state tracking, we have packet loss and jitter. And these are thresholds that you're going to be able to configure for the alerting. And when it exceeds those thresholds, you'll get an alert. And we'll get into a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. So an overview of the network health checks. So first and foremost, we're running MTR, stands for My Trace Route. And the unique thing about MTR is that it uses multiple trace routes per reported measurement. So for example, if you configure your network health checks monitor to run 5 report cycles, it's going to run a trace route to the same endpoint 5 separate times, measuring each hop along the way. So the numbers that get reported are, like I said, the statistical analyses on the data set of 5 measurements. So MTR values that Blue Triangle reports are going to be for the last hop because that is what shows the total network time. So all of these high-level bullet points are just important things to know. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but these are all just like some good points to understand. So the network method is the kind of internet protocol the MTR measurement is using to send the data. As we mentioned before, we have ICMP, TCP, UDP, and SCTP. ICMP and TCP are probably going to be the most common, but we do have UDP and SCTP available for you. Each of our network health checks uses MTR to run, and it does that via the configured method. This is kind of what the MTR measurement looks like in a Linux terminal. These are the metrics and what the results are going to look like in Blue Triangle as well. And we'll show you that here in a minute. But a couple of terms that are good to understand: hop, the transfer of data between 2 network nodes; a ping, the measurement of a hop; latency is the round trip time between 2 network nodes; a packet is the actual data packet sent between network nodes; and jitter is the variation in the delay between packets sent in hops. So that's a few important terms to understand. And like I mentioned, the last hop is going to be the standard for reporting in Blue Triangle, and that's because it's the total time between the synthetic monitor and the destination host. Average latency is going to be the primary metric, and it's going to be the default for things like the error tracking and performance. But information about all hops is going to be found in the performance detail page for the network health checks. Over to the right, and I'm gonna get to this live here in just a minute or two, so you'll be able to see what it looks like. Over to the right here is just kind of a list of all the metrics / settings for the measurement, and this is all going to show up in Blue Triangle as well. A little bit more really quick about the protocols. So ICMP its purpose is really network testing. So it's used for debugging network issues and just general network testing. TCP is obviously what's commonly used on the web for web browsing. It's the protocol for data transfer between browsers and websites. So UDP and SCTP. These are both additional protocols that we have. You're welcome to use these, and here's some details about those protocols. If you're using those, I'm sure you know what they are. So these protocols determine how the data is communicated and what kind of data or packets get sent. All right, so let's get into what all of this looks like in Blue Triangle. So as far as the configuration goes, you're going to configure a network health checks monitor, and that is going to be listed in the synthetic monitoring table. Inside of that configuration is also going to be the error state tracking alerting configuration, and we'll show you that here in a second. We have an overview report or dashboard, really, a performance detail report, test results, You can actually run an instant measurement of one of these things, and there are two dashboard widgets, the performance over time and the error state tracking. So I'm going to point out all of these things here right now. So let's open up Blue Triangle, get into it here. All right, so how to get there. First things first, click on synthetic monitoring, and you're going to see this network health checks section. Now that we've added the network health checks, there's really a lot of stuff here under synthetic, so we've broken it out and kind of organized it into real browser, API checks, and network health checks. And within those are the various pages that are associated with each type of synthetic monitor. So with network health checks, like I mentioned, we have an overview, a performance detail, and a test results. But the first thing we're going to do is go and create a new network health checks monitor. All right, so on this synthetic monitors page, we're going to create a network health checks monitor option here at the bottom of the list. All right, so we're going to network health checks monitor. We're going to create one of these for the Blue Triangle Help Center, and I'm going to just go ahead and drop that in right now. It's help.bluetriangle.com. So that's the destination that we want to measure. So we'll leave it at ICMP. Like I mentioned before, if you wanted to set it to TCP, you'd also be able to specify a port. The page name, page group, and traffic segment. I'm going to just copy the monitor name into the page name here. These are all just ways to segment the data. If you have a lot of these, you can group them together with the page, give them the same page group or traffic segment. We'll say every 5 minutes. Agent locations, we're going to say Seattle and DC. Now report cycles. Remember, this is basically how many trace routes are going to run per measurement. So we'll set that to, let's say, 5. We can configure the packet size here. We'll just leave it at 32, and the max number of hops. All right, so as far as alerting goes, this is where you'll be able to set up and configure the thresholds for your alerts. So the error tracking configuration is where you want to be for that. So the timing window rolling, this is basically the evaluation window or the look back period. You'll want to make sure there's going to be enough samples or measurements within this time period. So we're running this every 5 minutes. Frequency. So we're going to set the timing window rolling to, let's just say 30 minutes. And so in that 30 minutes, we're going to say error state tracking, the number of runs with errors. Well, let's say there must be at least 2 runs with errors, and there must be at least 2 different locations that are failing. So with that configuration, I'm going to probably just add a couple more of these. So over the past 30 minutes, at least 2 locations must be showing an error, and there must be at least 2 errors, right? Now, a couple other thresholds that you can set are the packet loss percentage and the jitter thresholds. So these are the defaults here, 1.5 and 20 milliseconds. But you can go up or down a little bit for those. So then just be sure to drop your email address in here or a notification group. Otherwise you won't get notified. So remember to do that. You can do reminders for those alerts. You just click yes here and then remind you every day, 3 days, 7 days, etc. And if it fails, you're able to do a retry on error. So we're all done here. We've filled out the configuration, and we're going to go ahead and click Review Changes and Create. All right, so network health checks. Check. All right, and here is our synthetic monitor. So while we're here, I'll point out that you can run an instant measurement by clicking this lightning bolt icon. It's actually fairly quick, so we'll run one from Washington, D.C. While that's running, let's go over to the Network Health Checks overview page. Whoops, let me instant measurement. And it looks like it's already finished here. So this is kind of the data that you'll be able to see for each of these measurements. So you can see that we ran 5 report cycles, and this is what the various hops look like for. This is our synthetic agent, and this is the Blue Triangle Help Center. All right, so that's what the data looks like. Now this is only a single measurement, right? So let's go back over here and look at what things look like kind of all together. So this is the overview page. The air tracking and performance widget is a great place to, it's a great dashboard to have up. So here we can see each synthetic monitor and its air state over time, as well as its performance as far as latency goes. From here, you're able to click to drill into the performance detail for this particular monitor. You're able to edit the monitor, and you're also able to run an instant measurement from here as well. So we see some red here, and as you hover over it, you'll be able to see that the issue here is high packet loss. And what you can do actually is click to drill in, and this works the same way as our regular synthetic monitoring, where you can click to drill in for more information. So if we scroll down, we can see this measurement in Chicago exhibited a high packet loss. It's like 33% packet loss for this particular measurement. So a lot of this works the same as our regular synthetic monitoring. It's just kind of the metrics are different. So you're still able to kind of drill into the map to view the performance by location. Oops, back to world map. You can change the metric here. Change the metric here as well. And then down here you get a overview of all of the metrics in a table for each monitor. All right, so that's the overview and the test results. You can actually go straight to the test results if you'd like here. But let's go to the performance detail now. And this is more of a report style page as opposed to a dashboard. So you can actually look at all your monitors at once and kind of look at this as a whole. So these numbers over here are averaged for each of these various network health check monitors. Now you can click one. For example, here's our Blue Triangle Help ICMP monitor. You can click one, and that's going to show the performance details for just that particular monitor. Another cool thing is you can actually click on one of these cards, and that'll update this bar chart over here to the left. And like I mentioned before, this works the same as our regular synthetic pages. There's a performance graph over here, and then you get a scatter plot showing the actual measurements that ran. So here you can see, and one of the things we'll be adding to this tooltip is the actual location, and as well as the public IP address of that synthetic agent. I think we'll be including the ISP as well. So here you can kind of drill into these individual MTRs. All right, one last thing I'll point out before we get into any questions. In the dashboard, we have 2 new dashboard widgets to support this new data. And I can show you where to find those. Here they are listed in the page here. We have a performance over time and a error tracking and performance widget. And this is for the network health checks data. So you can see a variety of metrics over time. You can filter this down to a particular monitor. And the way you would set those up is you go under synthetic widget type, and there's the network health checks performance and the network health checks error tracking and performance. So those two are great for the network health checks data. All right, so I think that's all I had to share with you guys today. I really appreciate your time and following along with me today. And so I'm going to check the chat and the questions now. Let me open back up the slides, and we'll see if there's anything I can help answer for you guys. Okay, I see a few questions have come in, so I'll go ahead and get started with those. But meanwhile, feel free to type in your question now, and I'll be happy to answer it as best I can. So the first question is from David, and he's referring to the example I gave in the slides about the 5 MTR measurements. So he's asking, so the results of the 5 MTR measurements get averaged together and stored in the portal. Is that right? I think, in other words, the 5 individual report cycles will occur per synthetic measurement, and those 5 are averaged to produce the results for a single measurement. Nice way to look at it, actually, if I jump back into the portal here, if I look at one of these and go to the test results. So if I open one of these up, you can see that this is, for example, this is the average or the geometric mean or the standard deviation across 5 separate trace routes or report cycles, right? So that's kind of how that works. There's another question that came in. Can you share these slides, or is there any additional documentation that we can get on this? Yeah, great question. I can share the slides, certainly. I'd also like to point out we do have documentation in our Help Center. If you just click this question mark icon and go over to our Help Center, you can point out where our documentation is. You can also just search for network health checks. It's in the documentation section. So this has tons of great information about, it has a lot of the same information that we went over on these slides, definition of terms here, some more about the protocols and more. All right, so I see we're coming up on our 30 minutes here, so I think if I don't see any more questions, we'll go ahead and close things out for today. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate it. And if you do have any more questions, we're always happy to chat offline. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. You can reach us at any of the emails listed here. Of course, support is support@bluetriangle.com. And you can also be sure to check out our Help Center. There's always great information to find there at help.bluetriangle.com. And you can also just submit a request or a question there as well. All right, guys, thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.